Hello, everybody. This is Patricia, your host, and I am very excited about this conversation that I'm actually going to have with you today. So, before we get into the content, I want to thank everybody that has been sharing the podcast, following the podcast, and supporting. It is so inspirational to know and to understand that no matter if there are 1,000 or 100,000 people that listen to the podcast, that it is affecting a person every day. I literally get this information dropped into my spirit from God, and then I'll either go somewhere or have a conversation with someone that is actually going through what the podcast is going to be discussing or has already discussed. And so it is wonderful to be able to pass this information along to them when they have time to be by themselves to sit and think about what actually the podcast information is giving to them. Because we know that everybody has a problem or has problems, but everybody is not able to talk about what they're going through. So that is why this is named The Dialogue. As I talk to you, you get an opportunity to go home, to sit where you are by yourself and think about it. And then eventually you will be able to go and share this information with other people. If it helped you, please make sure that you pass it along. I put this post up the other day on Facebook, and it said, "It is amazing how God confirms the messages that he gives to me." And he normally uses a person, meaning after I do the podcast, a person will come and they will confirm for me that I did the right thing. I said the right thing, that it was confirmation. So I'm so grateful for that. So thank you for all of you who have supported. Secondly, before we get into the podcast, October, as many of you know, and some of you don't know, October is Depression and Mental Health Screening, National Awareness for Screening. Okay. So if you are dealing with depression or a mental illness, this is the month for you to get screened so that you can see what's going on with you individually. Personally, I believe that as October approaches, the sun goes down and gets a little bit darker outside. Some people battle with seasonal depression. Some people because of issues with their family, meaning that the holidays are popping up. In November and December. So with that being so, we know that suicide sometimes amps up around these times because people are more by themselves, isolated, when it is a time that family normally gets together. My notion on that is that family should always be together through the year, not just around those times. However, because of the time of the year, I believe that is a time when a lot of people do commit suicide and harm themselves. Also, because we know it's a time when it's supposed to be a lot of thanksgiving and a lot of praise to God, supposedly around Christmas, where people are celebrating the birth of Jesus. So of course, a lot of darkness is going to surround the time when there's supposed to be so much light and so much happiness and so much glee and excitement. So, with all that being said, thank you so much for tuning in today. Today, the topic of conversation is going to be named The Crossroad. The Crossroad. I was just sitting here. I made a run real quick, so obviously I'm not in my car. I'm at my home, and the word crossroad came to me. And then it was also go over. Go over. So go over the crossroad. We always hear about people saying, that I'm at a crossroad, I'm in a transition, I'm at a fork in the road. And normally that is when there is a big decision that a person has to make. Okay. When you get to the crossroad, let me just paint a picture and give an illustration for you. When I used to go to work in the mornings, prior to, I used to be flying because sometimes I would be running late. It would be 4 a.m. while I'm trying to get myself together. And then, I would get on the road. It's dark outside. And it was actually very liberating and very peaceful. But there would come a time where I would get to a crossroad, literally where a train would sometimes come across the crossroad as I was on my way to work. And it would cause me to stop for so long. I mean, this train was very, very long. And I'm just looking at the clock like, oh my God, this is taking forever. I'm going to be late. And for some reason, I never mastered how much time it took for it to finally pass over for me to be able to cross over. And so a lot of you know, when you go to this crossroad, sometimes when the train is coming, you can hear the horns and the whistles and all the sounds blaring because this train is coming and it's approaching. And some people, they may get actually stuck on the tracks, it's just different situations and different scenarios. So I'm also going to correlate that to life. That is how life happens for some people. They get hit head on by a train, okay? Your life may seem like it's a train wreck. And what happens is maybe you did see the warning signs before the situation started, or you got yourself into the situation or that job where you now never see your family and you're at a point where you want to quit, or the relationship where it's just all out of control. Maybe you did hear the warning signs and the signals, but you kept going. And now it feels like your life is in a train wreck. And you don't know what to do because you feel like you're stuck. You're at a standstill. You don't know what direction to go. And it's so much time has passed on. It just seems as though like the train, it just keeps going and going and going. And it's the same thing over and over and over. But I want to tell you today that at the crossroad, maybe it is time to do something different. Maybe it's time to make a different decision. Maybe it's time to venture out and really challenge yourself to be and do different. And so I want to give you practical application so that you can apply it to your life, so that you can get a good outcome, so that you're not caught up in the same cycles of insanity and doing the same thing over and over and over. So when you're at a crossroad, sometimes you've been there for a long time. Okay, you stand still, you see other people moving, other people are going, other people are just living their lives, but you're at a standstill. And sometimes the standstill is because of the inward conversation that you're having with yourself. Okay, because when you're at a crossroad, you do have to cross over to get to the other side. Maybe because the situations were so bad before, you can't trust yourself to cross over because maybe you feel you're going to get hit again. Or life is going to throw you such of a curveball, such of a blow that you're just in a bad place. And you don't want to relive that same situation. So you're stuck. You're at a standstill because you're afraid now. So number one, the first thing that I want to detail about is fear. Fear will keep you from crossing over. Listen to me when I explain this. Life is going to happen to everybody. You can't get yourself or put yourself in a position to not move because you're afraid. Because at the end of the day, if you're standing still, if something is going to come and if something is going to hit you, it's going to know exactly where to locate you because you haven't moved. You haven't made any movement. You've given this thing perfect opportunity to locate you, to spot you, to put eyes and target you. You're not moving. It's not healthy. And the longer that you stand still and before you decide to cross over, you can become depressed because I will give you an example. I notice in the morning times when I get up, when I go to the park, if I get some sun, when I'm moving, I feel better. Now, don't get me wrong. There are times where you do need to sit down and you do need to rest. But inevitably, depression can set in on a person that keeps ruminating over on the same things mentally. And that will make you feel stuck because maybe you had a bad relationship and you keep going over the things over and over and over. And I myself was very guilty of that. Very guilty of that. I did that for a long time because you could be so upset with yourself and the decisions that you made. But it is healthy to let go. And I'm going to say that despite some things that just actually took place, it is healthy to let go. And so, number one is fear. Fear will keep you from crossing over. Number two, having apprehension about the unknown, meaning you don't know the details. So what happens a lot of times is that when you're at a crossroad and you have to go forward, you can look and see, but sometimes you don't know what's going to come out or what's going to come at you. So it's the unknown for you that keeps you from moving forward. It's the unknown. The unknown makes you anxious. The unknown brings about all types of feelings that you never thought that you would have. But somewhere in there, you have to make up in your resolve, I'm going to go if I don't know or not. Because honestly, prior to crossing over, you've probably already gone through so much hell, chaos to get to where you are anyway. And you didn't know those things were going to happen. So why not just take the chance and cross over? Cross over to what you don't know. The last one I'm going to pinpoint for you is your faith. Your faith. Your ability to trust God that no matter what happens to you, He loves you. He has your best interest at heart. I am really starting to learn and see that even if bad things do happen to me, that inevitably it does work for me. If I switch the perspective around, if I think about it in a different way, it works for me. It works for me. It says in Romans 8:28, all things work together for the good of those that are called according to God's purpose and who love Him. So that means if you get a curveball, if you get a train wreck, if something crazy happens to you, it is still working for your good. Because you'll end up having a capacity to use it to inspire another person. It is all about perspective. So let me go over these really quickly. I didn't want to keep you too long today. This was just something that crossed my mind as I was just sitting here. Number one, you're at a crossroad and it's time to cross over. Just like the children of Israel, when God brought them to the brink of the Red Sea and he was going to open the Red Sea for them. They had no idea that he was going to do that. What happened was, as they stood there, they mumbled, grumbled, and complained. Because it was more or less, okay, we're here. Our enemies are behind us. And the sea is in front of us. We're trapped. We're stuck. They were not stuck. They were afraid. They were not stuck. Just because they didn't see a way doesn't mean that there wasn't a way. They were afraid, which caused them to have an attitude and issues with Moses, their leader. But God did the impossible. He did the impossible by opening the Red Sea and allowing them to cross over. What if they would have went back too fast? What if they would have turned back too fast? What if they would have gave up too fast? The blessing was right there. The freedom was right there. All they had to do was make up in their mind, I'm going forward. Cross over, move on. Cross over, go on. Cross over. The second thing is, when they crossed over, prior to them getting into the crossover, they didn't know. There was a time of uncertainty and unknowing for them that took place. But they had a leader that was willing to talk to them and calm them like, hey, I know God. God has helped me cross over many times. Moses had to cross over a couple times when all the firstborn boys were being annihilated. And his mother put him into the sea to be sent up the Nile, up the way, to inevitably live in the place that was bondage for other people. He crossed over. He also crossed over after he killed the Egyptian for beating on his people that he didn't know was his people at the time. And God took him out of that and put him in the wilderness to show him who he really was. He crossed over again. So Moses had a track record of crossing over. He had a track record, a good rapport to know that God was able to do all things because he had did it before. He preserved and saved his life several times with the Israelites being, tracked down by the Egyptians. He knew that God would save their life because God saved his. He had assurance. So even though they didn't know and it was unknown, it was still a blessing for him. And number 3, faith. You have to have faith to know that if your life has been in a train wreck, all you have is God. And he is so amazing. God's reputation stands. He does what he says. And so your faith shouldn't be in a person. It should be in God to do what it is that he said he would do. God is a deliverer. He will always deliver you. God is trustworthy. He's sovereign. You can't let your emotions get the best of you. You have to keep moving forward. With that being said, I just wanted to get this out really quickly. Please, please, please remember that your crossroads road is the roadmap to cross over into your destiny, cross over into fulfillment, cross over into life. And when that happens for you, you will be able to be an inspiration to others as you walk this new path. So thank you so much for listening to The Dialogue. This is your host, Patricia. We appreciate you so much for listening and sharing and conversing with other people. It is my prayer today that you will muster up the courage that the Lord gives you and the strength to cross over. Stay tuned, everybody. We'll be back with more content, and we hope you have a good day. Bye.